Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Bolo. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Radhe Radha. Jaya Radha, Madhava Radha, Madhava Radhe. Jaya Radha, Kunda Vihari Radha, Kunda Vihari Radhe Radha. Jaya Radha, Damodar Radha, Damodar Radhe Radha, Damodar Radha. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Gauratunande, Jayam Vishupad Paramahamsa, Parivraj Gacharya Stotra Satya, Sri Simad, His Divine Grace, Sirabai Charandarvin Bhakti Vedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki, Iskon BBT, Founder Charya, Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Namacharya, Srila Haridas Thakur Ki, Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda Ki, Harinam Sankirtan Ki, Grantaraj mein Bhagavatam ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru, to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Taksurindritam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Jata Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sakritatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sivisakanvitam Scha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kancana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Siti Devi Pranamami Hare Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanegyo Vaishnavekyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Dharam Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the Supremest Human Being, unto Mother Saraswati, Goddess of Learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta Prayesha Badrishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhaviti Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Utamashloka Charitam Shakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Om Sarabhyaya Namaha. Mukam karoti vachalam pangom langayate girim yatkripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Yatkripatamaham bande Shri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. Just in time. We're reading from Canto 7, Chapter 3, entitled Hiranyakashipu's Plan to Become Immortal. Today's text number 14. Iti Vignapito Devair Bhagavan Atmabhir Atmabhur Nripa Parito Brigu Dakshadyair Yayao Daityesvarasrama. I'll break this down here. Daitya Ishvara Asramam Iti Vignapito Devair Bhagavan Atmabhur Nripa Parito Brigu Dakshadyair Parito Brigu Dakshadyair Yayao Daityesvarasramam Iti Vignapito Devair Bhagavan Atmabhur Nripa Parito Brigu Dakshadyair Yayao Daityesvarasramam Iti Vignapito Devair Bhagavan Atmabhur Nripa Parito Brigu Dakshadyair Yayao Daityesvarasramam
Iti Vignapito Devair Bhagavan Atmabhut Nripa Parito Bhrigu Dakshadyair Yayo Daityesvarasramam Iti Vignapito Devair Bhagavan Atmabhut Nripa Parito Bhrigu Dakshadyair Yayo Daityesvarasramam Iti Vignapito Devair Bhagavan Atmabhut Nripa Parito Bhrigu Dakshadyair Yayo Daityesvarasramam
Iti Vignapito Devair Bhagavan Atmabhur Nripa Parito Brigu Dakshadyair Yayao Daityesvarasramam Iti. Thus Vignapitaha informed by all the demigods, Bhagavan, the most powerful, Atmabhu, Lord Brahma, who was born from the lotus flower, Nripa, O king, Paritaha, being surrendered, being surrounded, Brigu, by Brigu, Daksha, Adyai, and others, Yayao, went, Daitya Ishvara, of Hiranyakashipu, the king of the Daityas, Asramam, to the place of austerity. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. O king, being thus informed by the demigods, the most powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by Brigu, Daksha, and other great sages, immediately started for the place where Hiranyakashipu was performing his penances and austerities. Kindly repeat after me. O king, being thus informed by the demigods, the most powerful Lord Brahma, accompanied by Brigu, Daksha, and other great sages immediately started for the place where Hiranyakashipu was performing his penances and austerities. Purport. Lord Brahma was waiting for the austerities performed by Hiranyakashipu to mature so that he could go there and offer benedictions according to Hiranyakashipu's desire. Now, taking the opportunity of being accompanied by all the demigods and greatly saintly persons, Brahma went there to award him the benediction desired. We will also read the following text, which is 15 and 16. We'll just read the translation. Lord Brahma, who is carried by the swan airplane, at first could not see where Hiranyakashipu was, for Hiranyakashipu's body was covered by an anthill and by grass and bamboo sticks. Because Hiranyakashipu had been there for a long time, the ants had devoured his skin, fat, flesh, and blood. Then Lord Brahma and the demigods spotted him, resembling a cloud-covered sun, heating all the world by his austerity. Struck with wonder, Lord Brahma began to smile and then addressed him as follows. This is called austerity. Severe austerity. Yeah. Purport. The living entity can live merely by his own power, without the help of skin, marrow, bone, blood, and so on, because it is said, asango yam purushaha. The living entity has nothing to do with the material covering. Hiranyakashipu performed a severe type of tapasya, austerity, for many long years. Indeed, it is said that he performed the tapasya for 100 heavenly years. Since one day of the demigods equals 6 of our months, certainly this was a very long time. By nature's own way, his body had been almost consumed by earthworms, ants, and other parasites, and therefore even Brahma was at first unable to see him. Later, however, Brahma could ascertain where Hiranyakashipu was, and Brahma was struck with wonder to see Hiranyakashipu's extraordinary power to execute tapasya. Anyone could conclude that Hiranyakashipu was dead because his body was covered in so many ways. But Lord Brahma, the supreme living being in this universe, could understand that Hiranyakashipu was alive but covered by material elements. It is also to be noted that although Hiranyakashipu performed this austerity for a long, long time, he was nonetheless known as a Daitya and Rakshasa. It will be seen from verses to follow that even great saintly persons could not perform such a severe type of austerity. Why then was he called a Rakshasa and Daitya? It is because whatever he did was for his own sense gratification. His son, Prahlad Maharaj, was only 5 years old, and so what could Prahlad do? Yet, simply by performing a little devotional service according to the instructions of Narada Muni, Prahlad became so dear to the Lord that the Lord came to save him. When Hiranyakashipu, in spite of all his austerities, was killed. This is the difference between devotional service and all other methods of perfection. One who performs severe austerities for sense gratification is fearful to the entire world, whereas a devotee who performs even a slight amount of devotional service is a friend to everyone. Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. Since the Lord is the well-wisher of every living entity, and since the devotee assumes the qualities of the Lord, a devotee also acts for everyone's good fortune by performing devotional service. Thus, although Hiranyakashipu performed such a severe austerity, he remained a Daitya and a Rakshasa, whereas Prahlad Maharaj, although born of the same Daitya father, became the most exalted devotee and was personally protected by the Supreme Lord. Bhakti is therefore called Sarvopadi Vinir Muktam, indicating that a devotee is freed from all material designations, and Anyabhilashita Shunyam, situated in a transcendental position, free from all material desires. So, tapasya, austerities, here we hear about the type of austerities performed by Hiranyakashipu. Such types of austerities that his body became practically no longer visible or completely eaten up. It means that actually the even this material energy and this material body being the energy of the Lord can perform or can accept severe types of austerities. It reminds us of the different bodily transformations. Sometimes bodily transformations are such that a person appears to be dead. In the context of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is quite nicely described, quite elaborately described actually in the Antya Lila. Anyone who reads the Antya Lila will become amazed at the bodily transformations of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita describes how such type of bodily transformations have never been recorded in history. even from the very first darshan that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had of Lord Jagannath when he first went to Jagannath Puri. The Lord Chaitanya, upon seeing Lord Jagannath, became completely unconscious to the point of seemingly lifeless. Actually, people thought he had left his body. And it was only when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came and he could understand that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was simply experiencing very deep emotional feelings of ecstasy. So the point being made here in the purport by Srila Prabhupada is that even great demoniac personalities like Hiranyakashipu can perform, Prabhupada even mentions, austerities that even devotees cannot perform. But the result of such austerities is completely different. Austerities performed by demoniac personalities create ultimately disturbances within society. This is elaborately described here, of course, in the case of Hiranyakashipu. Whereas even a little bit of austerity is performed by devotees, and of course the example is given here of Prahlad Maharaj, benefit both the individual performing such austerities and of course benefit the entire world as well. That is the difference between the divine nature and the demoniac nature. The divine nature, those who are cultivating especially bhakti or devotional service, because actually the essence of bhakti is the personal aspect or personal feature, isn't it? Bhakti, Srila Prabhupada explains, bhakti is actually, the essence of bhakti is loving devotion or love. And love is something that can only be expressed or experienced between two individuals. So we can see here clearly the difference between the divine consciousness and the demoniac consciousness. Demoniac consciousness, whatever activities, this is of course confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita as well, those who take shelter of the Mohini Prakriti, external energy of the Lord, Moga Shamoga Karmano, Moga Jnana Vichetasa, Rakshasim Asurima Chaiva, Mohinim Prakritim Sritaha. All of their endeavors, all of their activities, all of their knowledge will ultimately be to no avail, whereas the opposite is there for a devotee. Therefore, the importance of having within any community or society persons like Prahlad Maharaj who are cultivating the divine nature. So Prabhupada gives reference here to one of the verses in the Bhagavatam, Suridam Sarva Bhutanam. Krishna is also described. Bhoktaram Jagya Tapasam Sarvaloka Maheswaram Suridam Sarva Bhutanam Gyatamam Shantim Rechati. So the Lord is a well-wisher of all living entities, and those who are the devotees of the Lord, they are meant to emulate these qualities of the Lord as well. So we read in the Bhagavad Gita how this is the ongoing Leela, we can say, in the material world. What is that ongoing Leela? The struggle or the conflict between, it's a theme, a recurring theme everywhere, the conflict between the good and the bad. And bad means those who are of demoniac nature, and that's also very elaborately described in the Bhagavad Gita. Their activities ultimately lead to their own destruction and lead also to the destruction of others in the material world. So therefore, the importance of cultivating the divine consciousness, and that divine consciousness can ultimately defeat the demoniac consciousness. And this is the mission of the Lord when He descends in the material world, to introduce or reestablish divine consciousness. So devotees especially are those who are conscious of the destructive nature of those who are not adhering to or taking up the principles of dharma. Foremost responsibility for devotees is to take up or become part of the mission of the Lord, which is dharma samstapanarthaya, to reestablish the principles of dharma. And because dharma is a very involved subject matter, we see in the example of great personalities like even Grandfather Bhishmadev, who is an authority on dharma, but even in some instances, he was not able to take the right decision when the time was there, actually, in protecting Draupadi. Yeah. Of course, that was a very, sometimes situations become very intricate and very complex, but in general, the principles of dharma are quite straightforward, and they are the whole Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are giving us all types of examples of the importance of following dharma and the good effects or the positive effects, the good results that are there when we follow dharma. And of course, we can say that in our modern times, devotees especially who are cultivating this knowledge from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam can very easily understand why so much of, let's say, disturbances and calamities are there, largely or mainly because people are not knowing about dharma, are not following dharma. So therefore, the greatest welfare activity or welfare work that one can perform is to induce people in general. That is why the Lord descends himself. That is why other great personalities, his acharyas, also perform the same type of work or activities. So we are reminded here of Prahlad Maharaj, even someone who is very young, like Prahlad Maharaj, who was only 5 years of age, can become a great devotee of the Lord. And in the last portion of the purport, Prabhupada is indicating how, reminding us about the special or unique feature of the process of bhakti. Bhakti is therefore called Sarvabhadhi Vinir Muktam, indicating that a devotee is freed from all material designations, and Anyabhilashita Shunyam, situated in a transcendental position free from all material desires. So it means basically that those who have material desires, those who cling on to material desires, and Hiranyakashipu is an example of that, their fate is very negative and ultimately very destructive to themselves and to others. And it is only, this is nicely explained, of course, as well in the various Vaishnava literatures, as Prabhupada underlines here in the end portion of the purport. It is only bhakti that can bring us to that position or platform of completely doing away with all types of material desires. We are not advocating giving up desires altogether, but replacing material desires with spiritual desires. So therefore, in the prayer that we recite every day, Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesh Shunyabad. Impersonalism and voidism negates all kinds of desires. And in the impersonal philosophy, because it is denying the aspect of personality, and that one is brought to the platform of becoming one with God. So that is also rejected by those who are knowledgeable about bhakti or devotion. So therefore, bhakti is very unique in that sense. in that it brings one to the real personal platform, freed from material desires, free from material hankerings, and therefore fully or completely situated on the transcendental platform. I'll just read the text again. Lord Brahma, who is carried by a swan airplane, at first could not see where Hiranyakashipu was, for Hiranyakashipu's body was covered by an anthill and by grass and bamboo sticks. Because Hiranyakashipu had been there for a long time, the ants had devoured his skin, fat, flesh, and blood. Then Lord Brahma and the demigods spotted him, resembling a cloud-covered sun, heating all the world by his austerity. Struck with wonder, Lord Brahma began to smile and then addressed him as follows. It's like Krishna when he saw Arjuna in a very morose state of mind, he also smiled at him, understanding his situation. So any comments or questions on this?
I heard once when Bhishma Pitama, when he was giving the knowledge to the Pandavas there,
When he was?
giving the knowledge,
Yeah.
instructions to Pandavas, then actually Draupadi was also there, and after he spoke, then Draupadi, she started laughing at him.
Draupadi started, okay, because he was speaking about dharma.
We were speaking about dharma, and we never cared for it when I was actually doing a situation there in the Rajya Sabha.
Yeah.
So why you do that? then he says, that was the time I was eating the food from their family. So all the blood which was there in my body, now it is taken out by Arjuna's arrows.
Okay.
So now that the body is cleared from that blood,
Now I can speak about that
I
one.
can speak about it.
Okay. That's in the Mahabharata?
Yes.
Okay.
That is, of course, in different context we speak that, how food is so, like from where they're eating the food.
Yeah, different levels of contamination. Some more subtle, some more direct. Less subtle, correct. Yeah. That is connected with the whole very fundamental, basic aspect of association, right? Our association is very much molding or influencing the consciousness of an individual. Yeah, nice point.
In this case, Bhishma Pitama or even Pandavas, whatever pastimes goes on, are they covered by the Yogamaya or Mahamaya?
Which pastime?
Bhishma Pitama's pastimes also, because he's a devotee, eternal devotee of the Lord.
Yeah.
So is he covered by the Yogamaya or the Mahamaya for the pastimes to be enacted?
That particular pastime or other pastimes?
Yeah, I mean this particular pastime, Vishnu Pitama, because there are eternal devotees of the Lord. So is it under the Yogamaya or Mahamaya for the pastimes to happen?
Pure devotees don't come under the influence of Mahamaya. That same question can be asked also in the context of Arjuna. Arjuna is also an eternal associate and, eternal friend of Krishna, and participates in the Lord's pastimes whenever he, in the material world, from universe to universe. So, Krishna sometimes seemingly puts his devotees in a kind of a bewildering situation. But our acharyas explain how even that is directly mentioned by Krishna, that you're not, when Krishna is addressing Arjuna, he's telling that you are born of divine nature, and even though Arjuna had some doubts and hesitation to take up his responsibility, that was allowed for that higher purpose, as we know of giving the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. So sometimes Krishna will allow such personalities to seemingly, from a external material aspect, one may say that he is in Maya, or that he is in their situation is not ordinary. Anything? Jai Grantaraj Bhagavatam ki Jai, Sri Prabhupada ki Jai.